Dare great things for Christ. Christ calls us to dare great things. In the marketplace, as well as in the mission field, there has never been a time like the present for the spirit of the Catholic entrepreneur. Now is the time for men and women of great courage and great vision to engage our church and our culture. Now is the time to dare great things. And here is your host as we dare great things, Father Nathan Cromley, the president and founder of the St. John Institute.
One of the most enigmatic phrases of our Lord is his command to the apostles to be as coy as serpents and simple as doves. Anyone, however, who is in the realm of leadership knows the importance of this balance. In The Third Law of Power by Robert Greene, Greene insists that keeping power means hiding one's true intentions, being duplicit. Christ obviously intends something different from us. He shows us an example of authenticity. Well, I certainly hope that you all are enjoying this series as much as I am. We're talking about Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, but we're doing it from the perspective of what this shows us about the way that Christ intends his leaders to lead. And this, of course, is a very important subject because you all are leaders and you're trying to make a difference. Like, if you weren't trying to lead your family, you wouldn't really be parents, right? But if you are a parent, parenting is a verb. It's like, this is a challenge. I mean, how do I get my kid to do what I know that they need to do? How do I rear a child to become a saint? It's such a daunting challenge that a lot of people they just give up. They're just kind of like, hey, we'll go through the motions. I do whatever it takes to make the kid happy, and then I send them off on their own. But that's not really parenting, and we know that. And it's the same thing when you're in a professional world. It's not enough for a Christian just to have a job. It's not enough for a Christian just to own a company. It's not enough for a Christian just to say, I've got a career. Like, we have to fill our job. We have to use our company. We have to fill our career with Christ. I mean, like, there's an exciting way of looking at our faith that I think is at the heart of what I'm trying to do with the St. John Leadership Network. I'm trying to help you to find the power of your faith by aligning your faith with your mission. See? So, like, what do they do with their life? Well, most people are raising kids. Most people are busy with their marriages. Most people are trying to entertain friends. Most people have family commitments and they have work commitments. And these two types of commitments dominate your lives. Well, I'd like to say, like, God has a lot to say about that. I understand that you're not able to say, well, my purpose in life is to pray. I mean, I hope you can, especially towards the end of your life, if you have more time to be able to do that. I mean, of course, I'm encouraging that. It's just that most people don't live that way. Most people say, how does God fit into my life? And I'm here to say, that's what I'm doing. I'm showing you how God fits into your life. He fits into your life as soon as you try to lead it. Okay. But if you are sitting on the side just saying, hey, I'm just trying to get through and just, pay my bills or whatever, then yeah, like, you're right. God has nothing to do with that because God summons you to greatness. God is there to meet you as you try to summit the mountain, whatever that might be for you, whether it's a high mountain in the eyes of others or a low mountain, whether you be big or small, every mountain to you is the mountain that God wants you to climb. And he's going to meet you on that mountain. That's why I'm talking about parenting as well as I'm talking about management. And it's all of the same. It comes down to a spirit inside of the Christian that says, that mountain is my mission, right? That relationship, that goal that I've got there, that's where suddenly I'm going to meet Jesus, and my spirituality is going to become as real as my aspiration is. Okay, so don't give up. Don't stop believing. Don't give up on that dream that you have, that challenge point that you have, to heal that relationship, to educate that child, to find meaning in your life. You don't give up on that challenge, because wherever you are, whatever you're doing there, that's where you're going to find why you need God. God comes to save and redeem what is broken. And we find that when we try to do something and we fail, or we struggle with it, or it's harder than we are. And God is right there. That's what's so cool. You're going to meet Jesus and you're going to meet his spirituality when you try to do that. That's why I want to do these laws of power with green with you, because what green represents is kind of an easy way out. It's kind of the way of the quitter. And I love to do that in a challenging way, because that's not what green would say. Green would say, oh, no. These 48 laws of power, these are the way that you win. This is the way you dominate others, the way that you get what you want out of life, And I just kind of laugh at that a little bit. I'm like, that's easy. I mean, if really the goal of your life is you, and it's just there for you to become, more powerful and for you to have more stuff, that's really not that hard. You're right. If you lie to other people, like he says to do here in the third law of power, if you deceive others about your true intentions, you're right. You will be able to manipulate them, right? The laws that he gives are all extensions of the teaching of Machiavelli. Machiavelli was an Italian kind of guy who wrote this book called The Prince way back in Renaissance Italy. And in The Prince, he basically says, if you want to play in the court, which is all of the people of influence surrounding a king, then these are the rules. If you obey them, you win. If you don't, you will lose. Okay? But do you see where it all hinges? It all hinges on, do you want to play in the court of the king to earn earthly power? Now, as Christians, of course, we're like, well, no. I mean, I do, but I don't. I do want to play in the court of the king because God sent me there in order to make an impact for him, right? So yeah, you need to provide for your family and you want to provide for them well. Okay, so now you're in the court of the king. So you're trying to make your name in the world. And therefore you have to be, like Jesus says, as coy as a serpent. But notice he does say it's a serpent. I'm just pointing that out, right? The one who's coy here is not exactly the greatest of the animals. He kind of likes sheep a little bit better than serpents. But he says, no. As Christians, you have to be as coy as a serpent because I'm sending you out like lambs among wolves. And I'm asking you to testify for me before kings. And I want you to make an impact to claim cultures for me. Don't let your company stay neutral. Don't let your profession be run as if you were a pagan. You're not a pagan. You're a child of God. And when Christians assert themselves in society using the platforms of influence, right? Like your management team, like your title. I'm the principal of a school. I'm a teacher in a classroom. I'm a swim coach in Cincinnati, whatever it might be. You take that thing that you've been given by God and you say, I'm going to use this for you. Okay. Well, that means that you're in this world. And therefore what Machiavelli says has a certain degree of interest. And just like what the 48 laws of power are by Green, there's certain things that's going to you're like, oh yeah, I see that, right? It's just that what Christ offers us is to say, and I want you to be at the same time as you are as coy as a serpent, as simple as a dove. Why? Because doves have the secret to true happiness. If you live in this world for yourself and yourself only, you're deluding yourself. You will never be satisfied. You will never really win. Because you can win on the outside, but if you haven't won on the inside, then anything you won on the outside isn't winning at all. It's just the truth. I mean, if you have the whole world and you don't have a soul, or if you have the whole world and then Jesus says, then you die and you've got nothing. I mean, how is that a victory? It'd be like this. You could have all the houses you want, but if you don't have the time to live in them, then it's not worth having the houses. Why is it that we constantly seek to replace the glory of the soul with the things of this world? And it's not an either or. I hope you have both, But if you have the things of this world without the soul, then welcome to Christianity. Because he's like, you know what? Start with the soul. Seek first the kingdom, and everything else will be added to you besides. But the whole secret is that you don't really need it. You want to use it for me.
Would you like to hear more from Father Nathan? Join the St. John Leadership Network and receive a 2-minute glance at the gospel every Sunday morning right to your phone. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
So in Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he has 48 of these lessons, and I'm going through them. I'm just going to pick out 2 or 3 more with you. We're not going to go on interminably with this, but I wanted to give you enough that you're able to read it and understand the logic here. All right. His logic is that if you follow these laws, you will be successful in power. You will have power, right? And I just keep on emphasizing, number one, what are you going to do with that power? It's kind of like the goal of life shouldn't be to have power. The goal of life should be to use power for what is good. Okay. Because you can be a leader, you can have a position, but if you don't know what to do with it, then honestly, I think you're a fool. I'm just going to say it outright, right? And this is the height of foolishness, to be able to say, I have everything, but I don't know why I have it all. Right? Green doesn't care about that. People of power, Machiavelli doesn't care about that. He's like, no. What you want to be is able to do whatever you want. And I just kind of laughed to myself because I'm like, you could be in a high-rise apartment in the penthouse apartment, playing Candy Crush on your phone. What are you going to do with that high-rise apartment? You're on a leather sofa looking out over the city of Manhattan. And in the end, you're doing the exact same thing as the person's walking in Central Park. You don't know what even to do with yourself. Which means that you somewhere along the line, you got deluded. And that is that our quest for power as Christians needs to be for the sake of the good we can do with it. And that good is not just financial, it's also spiritual and human. The relationships that we can build with it, the lifestyle of joy that we can bring into others, the community that we can form with the power that God gives us. This is why we seek power. And we seek it at the service of the one who gives it to us as a gift so that we can bless others thereby. That's the beauty of the Christian vision here, right? And Robert Greene totally misses that. And he's not trying to even say it. He's just saying a quest after power. So my first criticism of the book is like, hey, wait, guys, don't fall for it, right? Power is not happiness. Okay. You can be really powerful and you can be really unhappy. The goal of your life is not to be powerful. The goal of your life is to be happy, and happiness can only be found in a love for God and in a love for other people that's bigger than you. Okay. But when you find that, you've got everything. All right. So now, what does he say? The third law. So if you want to look at the specifics of this, then he gives these 48 kind of pieces of advice, and he bases them in antiquity and all these stories of people that, didn't have the wisdom that we have coming from the gospel, or didn't live according to it anyway. I'd almost it'd be kind of neat to do a series of podcasts where I did Christ's 48 laws of love. Wouldn't that be kind of neat? Or the 48 laws of happiness by Jesus Christ. That'd be kind of an interesting way to look at it. But anyway, enough of that, because there's a lot of truth in what he says at the same time. These are the ways that you operate if you want to operate in the world. And so in his third law, Robert Greene says this. He says that in order to gain power and to hold on to power and to live according to power, it's very important to conceal your intentions. He says, keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. I just want to whoa, is this ever different from what we're used to in Christianity, right? Keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue what you are up to, they cannot prepare a defense. I was so much for creating a communion between other people. Here we're talking about defense and offense. And there's obviously some utility in that. We're going to talk about that. There's a time for that. But at the same time, he says, guide them far enough along the wrong path, envelop them in enough smoke. And by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. All right. So let's first of all, acknowledge that, hey, there's something to this, right? If you're playing in the ways of the world, there's something to this. What are your real intentions behind this or that relationship? Well, people tend to be defensive. People tend to not want to change. And if you are a change agent, right, you might need to kind of cloak that change a little bit at the beginning. Because at the same time, if you're trying to move somebody like a customer into buying something, well, you don't say, I want to sell you something. You ask, what do you need? Now, of course, we say this is good because then your sale is a kind of service to the human person. It's a kind of a Christian thing to meet their needs, but at the same time, I would say this though, if you're trying to do your sale in order to use the person to get their money and you're not trying to meet their needs, well, then you're not doing this in the name of Christ for sure. But at the same time, we can kind of see his whole thing. There's a utility to it. And his utility is people don't want to give you power willy-nilly. They want to give you power only when they think it aligns with themselves. All right, well, I mean, that's a profound insight into fallen human nature. But like we live in a world of fallen human nature. So you need to kind of keep that, there's something to that. I'm not just dismissing this. I'm saying that there's something to it. It's just that it's imperfect, meaning that there's also another part of this message that we need to really hear. And that's the value of authenticity. Because I don't think Christ would say, keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. That's not what he said to do, and when he sent us out, he said, go and proclaim the kingdom, and be prepared, therefore, for people to reject you. Be prepared, therefore, for you to be cast out of cities. Be prepared, therefore, for you to suffer persecution. Robert Greene is like saying, hey, look, this is how you avoid all of that. So there's always a balance. And then you got to listen to what he's saying here, because he's revealing something that I think I've seen other leadership people talk about, and I'm just tipping my hat to them because it's an incredible truth. And it's that, in fact, people are self-interested. You need to prove to your audience that you are relevant to their story and their needs in order to have them listen to what you have to say. So is that concealing your intentions? A little bit. It's more like, I think, like, you don't have to look at it just as concealing your intentions. There's something to that, but like, I would like to see it couched in a more perfect perspective, which is to say, communicate with the person in the way that they need to hear. Right? So that's a very different type of thing. And so that communication could also be in your relationships with other people. Right? Like, I don't just come out to someone with all of my authenticity. Authenticity is not the same as self-expression. Okay, this is something very important. Authenticity does not give you the right to say that what I am has to be acknowledged by you. There, you're disregarding the truth of what Greene is saying in his law of power. You're saying that if I'm authentic and I'm just here just to like put it all on the table, and then it's like, you better like it. Greene is like saying that's not how it works, right? There's something of the coyness of a serpent here to understand at the same time that if you really want to touch someone's heart, you have to start by getting them to let you into the door. They have to open their heart to you for you to then touch it. And this requires an adaptability of true communication. If I have something difficult to say to an employee, for example, I think I like this method someone taught me one time, and I just share it with you because it's kind of fun. It's called the Oreo method. So if you have a correction where you have to say to somebody, first start with the crust. And the crust is something positive. So you say, you know what, Sally, I want to tell you that I really appreciate all that you do and your willingness to always learn more. Okay, that's the beginning. So now the person's like, oh, that's nice. Then you tell them the meat. I got to say, though, however, that your performance is a little bit, we need some improvement on some performance there. Then you finish with the other side of the crust. But you know what? I'm sure that since you're willing to learn, this is going to work out. What you just told them is, well, in fact, I need you to change your working style and I need you to do it right now. But you did it in a way that was respectful. You respected the fact that you were communicating with them the way they needed to hear it in order for them for you to be effective. So there's like a little bit of an example of that. But Christ wants something much more from us. He's calling us to what I call Christian authenticity. And that's a whole different thing and a whole deeper level.
Would you like to start your Thursday mornings with a scriptural leadership lesson? Join the St. John Leadership Network, where Father Nathan hosts a 30-minute call at 6:30 a.m. in all 4 U.S. time zones. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
So the pattern of our Christian faith as a leader needs to be Jesus Christ. That should go without saying, right? But then again, think about what that saying means. That's an amazing truth. The pattern of our life as a Christian leader is Jesus Christ. What a wonderful thing to think that we are able, by our leadership, to share somehow in Jesus, to be not only to be like him, but to continue his work. Because, of course, the people that we lead don't belong to us. They belong to him. So they're his sheep, and yet the only shepherd they're ever going to see is you. 10 hours a day when they're working for you, you are the shepherd for those sheep. Now, not of their soul, you don't want to overplay this, but you have a real authority over them, that you have a real power over them. And Christ has given you that. That's an amazing thought. You go down the stream of everyone you manage and everyone they manage, whom you manage, right? Like, and indirectly, how many people's lives you impact on a daily basis. Then you go into your colleagues and you think about all the colleagues that you have and all the lives that you impact on a daily basis, and you realize, whoa, this is a powerful thing to have power. And it's something that's akin to God. It's something that's akin to God. So the way that I need to exert power in my life is like Christ. Now, when I look at this third rule of power, and conceal your intentions, where Robert Greene says, envelop the people around you in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. So he's actually saying, deceive them so that you can move past them. Right? So, of course, there's something legitimate about what he's saying. But at the same time, when we follow Christ, what was Christ like? Did he conceal his intentions, putting smoke out so that he could surpass those who were opposed to him? I mean, I think you could look at some times in his life where things were kind of nuanced, but I wouldn't say that the nuance ever was him putting up smoke so that then he could blow past people. No, because in fact, when you look at Matthew, for example, in chapter 23 of the Gospel of Matthew, if you can open your Bibles, turn to that with me now and take a look at that chapter. It's nothing but him revealing straight to the face of the Pharisees that were in front of him 7 problems that he has with their way of life. I mean, and he says each time, woe to you. This is Jesus really coming out boldly, strongly, and basically condemning them to their face and in front of all the people who would otherwise be following them. It's a very inflammatory action. In the temple of Jerusalem, Jesus Christ, in front of people, tells the Pharisees 7 times in a row where they're wrong. Okay, so was this misguided? This certainly wasn't very nuanced or coy, but it was wise. Yeah, it's always wise because it was the fullness of time. And what Jesus was doing here is he was saying, I prefer truth to power. There were times in the life of Jesus where people offered him power. You remember when he fed the crowds 2 different times up in Galilee, where he fed 5,000 men. And it even says, not counting women and children, which is really amazing, right? Because if there's 5,000 men, you can guarantee there's 5,000 women. There's, absolutely, they're not going to miss out on this. And if there's the men and the women there's going to be the children there that they probably brought along from the house. They want to pay for a babysitter. They went out to Jesus. He fed a crowd of more than 10,000 people easily. Well, when you look at the populations of that day, the size of their village, this village of Simon Peter, for example, Capernaum, was only 100 houses. So if there's, 200 people living there and you have 10,000 people, he drained the majority of the population from that whole area, and he just fed them miraculously in front of them all they could eat of bread made from heaven. No wonder they wanted to make him king. Make Jesus king and you get great food. And it's the same thing we have to this day of different political entities giving stuff away for free. And why? Because you get followers when you give people what they want. Well, there was Jesus, and when they wanted to make him king, what did he do? He left and went away by himself on the mountainside. It's such a correction for us. And it's a correction for Robert Greene here. Guys, there's something more to want than power, okay? There's something more to life than succeeding in the eyes of others. There's authenticity and truth. There's a truth of who you are. And what's the measure of who you are? It's not what your basketball coach says it is. It's not what your dad says it was. It's not what whoever it is that has the next amount of money out there says that it is. It's not how they define it. The only one who really defines who we really are and the greatness of our life is Almighty God, the one who created us. And then Jesus Christ, his only begotten Son, who redeemed us to live like him. This is a real challenge point for us, you see, because that's truth. That means that even though I'm questing after power in different ways, which is nothing wrong with that, that's called being a good parent, right? Having power, the effective power over your kids. Parent, there's a way to that. The leadership is always interfacing with power. It's just that as a Christian, we're like, that does not suffice. My power has to be defined by my purpose. And my purpose is defined by the truth of God's will for my life. Now, if you combine all of that, well, now I can be as simple as a dove. I can say, in fact, you know what? I am here for the purpose that I'm here to achieve, to glorify God and to serve him in my company and to serve him in my business by doing good things and doing them well and doing good things with the wealth that generates. You know, it's real simple. And if I keep my eyes on that, well, then I'm happy, right? And then then I can be as coy as a serpent. And that's why I'm trying to do more of that. And of course, I'm trying to make the world better by navigating in there. And that requires me, understanding the ways of the world, but I'm doing it with this deeper purpose. It's a challenge point. And it's so beautiful because when you embrace that challenge, you'll also have to embrace the Lord. Because all of us are going to find that just like Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings, we've been given this ring of power, which is very tempting. This ring of power that we have to carry, which is the temptation to constantly live for ourselves. And the only one who can keep us away from that is the Lord himself, Jesus. Our spirituality feeds our leadership because our spirituality points us to the end goal and the end of all things that allows us then to do what we need to do, but to do it right. And to conceal our intentions, as Green says, yes, but in the right way. Always in the way that's limited to and pointed to the love of God.
Dare great things for Christ.
Share your feedback with Father Nathan. Send us an email at communications@stjohninstitute.org. That's communications@stjohninstitute.org. And visit www.stjohninstitute.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive updates from Father Nathan.